Hey guys, I just want to talk about animal pain and exactly how much pain they experience. Now the first thing I want to say is that I do not believe that animals experience no pain. In fact, I believe they experience the same amount of pain that we do, if not more. So, if animals experience the same amount of pain as we do, then what am I arguing about? Well, how much of that pain is actually experienced? Don't understand what I'm talking about? Well, let me explain. When something bothers an animal, there are nerves in the animal that tells it that this is bothering it, or that is bothering it, or this is hurting it. The thing is, those are just all chemical reactions just happening in the brain and the body. Consciousness is you being able to experience the world through your senses or your emotions. This is what makes you, you. Think of it this way. When you are asleep or unconscious, you do not experience the world, but your brain still processes things like pain, but you do not feel it. What makes you does not feel the pain. This is unlike when you are awake or conscious, when all these things you actually experience. This is why if an animal feels pain, but lacks the ability to experience and conscious it, that pain is just totally useless. Without consciousness, that pain is just a series of chemical reactions happening in the brain and body. The concept of feeling pain needs consciousness to experience it. Now, many people believe that animals do not have consciousness. They say this because consciousness cannot be proven. As Kristen Marlowe put it, a graduate from the University of Missouri St. Louis, in science, in order to prove something, you need to know everything from every perspective. Because everybody in the world has consciousness, we cannot get a perspective of what it's like to have consciousness from someone who does not have it. This is a simpler way to explain it with an example. Imagine the T-2000 from Terminator. It is designed to blend in with people and be unrecognized as a robot from the future. Now, it is able to do this because it mimics consciousness exactly. Now, and that's the problem. Things don't actually have to be conscious to be like you and me, conscious beings. Now, the problem with thinking this way is that you wouldn't be able to prove anything. As the words of Larry Flammer, nothing in science is ever proven. There's no amount of evidence that could ever prove something to be absolute in science. The thing is, there's over 100 years of evidence that proves that animals have consciousness. Saying that consciousness cannot be proven and therefore animals do not have consciousness and experience no pain really doesn't work, because there is a lot of evidence that animals do have consciousness. And with so much evidence, we can say that it is a fact that animals have consciousness. Now, let's talk about what evidence proves animals have consciousness. Now, one way consciousness is proven is through brain scans. Brain scans will reveal a bunch of complicated science stuff about the brain that we really don't understand, which may prove consciousness. But for now, let's talk about another way consciousness is proven, through experiments. Behavioral experiments are a great way to prove to the public that animals have consciousness. Unlike brain scans, it doesn't really require a fancy science biology degree in order to understand it. One experiment that is really popular because it's so easy to understand is the mirror experiment. The mirror experiment revolves around the idea that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you can tell that you're looking at yourself and not someone else. This may sound simple to you and me, but this actually requires a complex cognitive capacity called self-awareness. So, in the mirror experiment, what they do is place an animal in front of a mirror and they examine it to see whether or not the animals know they're looking at themselves or not. A lot of animals will treat the mirror like it's another animal. And when the animals do know they're looking at themselves, it's quite obvious. They try to check for spots they can't see with their bare eyes or not, and that is where the mirror experiment proves self-consciousness for that animal. Now, this may not prove that all animals are self-conscious, but there are many other experiments that will prove that. Proving that animals have self-consciousness has been going around for over 100 years, and since there's so much evidence to prove that animals have self-consciousness, a paper called the Cambridge Declaration of Consciousness has been signed. The people who signed this declaration are very big scientists, and they are very credible. The biggest and most credible scientist there is Stephen Hawking. This declaration declares that all animals are self-conscious, and that things like a neurocortex is not needed in order to have self-consciousness. Now at this point, we have proven that animals are conscious beings, and therefore they can truly experience pain. But just to what degree are they conscious? That is where we return to the Cambridge Declaration of Consciousness. In that declaration, it states that near human-like levels of consciousness has been most dramatically observed in African gray parrots. So if African gray parrots are going to have human-like levels of consciousness, just imagine how much consciousness a bear may have, or your dog. So here's this. Imagine an Asian black bear. No, I'm not talking about a panda bear. I'm talking about this bear called the Asian black bear. If you were to spend 5 minutes punching this animal in the face, and then you switch over to a human and punch the human for 5 minutes in the face, they would experience near identical amounts of pain because of how conscious they are. Now this is very hard to imagine, especially because of how different we are. But we are not different because of how much consciousness we may have. We are different because of how our brains may work, like how much intelligence we may have, which is very different from consciousness. So in the end, animals may experience pain just a little less than us for the fact that they are a little less conscious than us. But they are conscious beings that feel pain like how we do. So just remember that next time you're like me and you try to murder the ducks that are at the park. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.